The last 4 years have been a real roller coaster, right? Crisis after crisis. But have you ever wondered how a massive company, one that's responsible for thousands of jobs and products we use every day, actually survives that kind of storm? Well, today, we're going to look at PT Temposcan Pacific, a huge Indonesian conglomerate, and unpack how they managed to get through the ultimate corporate stress test.
Now, to really get what makes Temposcan tick, you have to start right here with their core mission. And this isn't just some slogan they put on a poster. It's a philosophy that's been baked into the company since 1953. It's this idea that they're doing more than just business. They're contributing to the nation.
And then, that test came. In early 2020, a once-in-a-century event showed up and threatened to unravel, well, everything. It put that mission and their very survival right on the line.
Okay, let's set the scene. It's the beginning of 2020. The entire world is basically grinding to a halt. For a company like Temposcan, with this huge range of products, the chaos was instant. It was profound.
You see, the pandemic didn't just slow things down. It completely rewired how we all live. Lockdowns, health protocols, all of it meant that what people needed, what they bought, and how they bought it changed like in the blink of an eye.
And this data just shows how dramatic that shift was. I mean, look at this. Their cosmetics group, sales just plummeted, down by over 43%. It makes sense, right? People weren't going out, so makeup sales just fell off a cliff. But at the very same time, their SOS personal hygiene line, think hand sanitizers, skyrocketed by 37%. It was like a tale of two completely different companies living under one roof.
So, faced with this split reality, standing still just wasn't an option. Temposcan had to make some really decisive, strategic shifts to survive and, keep serving its customers. It was time to pivot, and they had to pivot hard.
And the epicenter of this whole pivot was their Consumer Products and Cosmetics Division, or CPC. This is the part of the company that was getting hit with the biggest losses and the biggest gains, so this is where they had to act the fastest.
Their response was super swift and really focused on three main things. First, they doubled down on what people needed most: health and hygiene products. Second, they hit the accelerator on their digital and e-commerce channels to get to people stuck at home. And third, they totally overhauled their supply chain to deal with the crazy demand and all the logistical nightmares.
And this wasn't just talk. They put it into action with a couple of really key initiatives. First was something called Temposcan Home Delivery, or TSHD, which got products directly to people's doorsteps. The second was a pretty sophisticated system on the back end to manage all their inventory. It was all about making sure the right stuff was in the right place at the right time, which, let's be honest, was a huge challenge in 2020.
But here's the thing. This successful pivot, it wasn't just some spur-of-the-moment reaction. It was possible because of a foundation of resilience that was built right into the company's DNA over decades.
This chart from 2022 really shows how balanced their business is. You've got three main divisions: pharmaceuticals, consumer products, and distribution. And they each bring in a pretty big chunk of the revenue. What that means is, when one area like cosmetics got hit hard, the others could absorb the shock. That diversification, that was their safety net.
And remember, that whole mission of working for Indonesia, well, it wasn't just words on a wall. At the height of all the uncertainty in 2020, Temposcan donated 10 billion rupiah for COVID-19 detection equipment. This just goes to show that even while they were fighting for their own survival, they were also fighting for the nation's.
So, just as the world started to kind of emerge from the pandemic, a whole new set of challenges popped up on the horizon. The fight wasn't over, it had just shifted to a brand new battlefield, the global economy.
And the results of their strategy? They're crystal clear. Just look at the steady upward climb in their net sales. From nearly 11 trillion rupiah in 2020, they grew consistently right through the post-pandemic craziness to over 13.5 trillion in 2024. They didn't just survive, they actually found a way to thrive. But, top-line growth doesn't tell the whole story. While sales were climbing, things like global inflation and rising supply chain costs were squeezing their profitability. You can see their gross profit margin dipped a bit, from 35.7% down to 34.0%. This shows that navigating this new economic storm was a challenge in its own right, forcing them to be even more efficient.
So, after walking through this 4-year corporate saga, what can we really learn from it all? Well, Temposcan's journey offers a pretty powerful lesson in resilience, strategy, and just how important having a guiding mission really is.
So the big takeaway here is that their success really boiled down to three key things. 1. A diversified portfolio that spread out the risk. 2. Strong, trusted brands and essential goods that people turn to in a crisis. And 3. A deeply integrated business, where they control everything from manufacturing to distribution. That gave them the agility to pivot exactly when they needed to the most.
So yeah, TempoScan proved it could navigate a global pandemic and the economic chaos that followed. They absolutely passed the ultimate stress test. But in a world that never stops changing, the question now becomes, what new challenges will define the next test, and are they ready to face it?